Good evening, everyone. Welcome into Vol Society Live on this Wednesday night. My name is David Morrison from the Vol Society. I'm the lead analyst. And thanks for joining us right here on this Wednesday night. Getting started a little later than normally when I get started, but had a little prior commitment. But now we're all ready to go. Uh, Fresh off the orange and white game, I was there Saturday, so we're going to talk about what I noticed during the orange and white game. Kind of really break it down a little bit more. I did kind of a post game recap on our Vol Society Facebook page. It was very brief since it was just kind of an instant reaction. But I'm gonna kind of dive deep a little bit more as kind of marinated and thought about the whole thing, and we'll dive into that. Also, we'll talk about the Tennessee baseball team. As the title of the video is, "What's up with the baseball team?" And we'll kind of dive into their recent struggles. Tennessee baseball lost 12-5 to Tennessee Tech last night. So what's going on with them? We'll dive into that a little as the show goes on tonight, and then some basketball news. Big basketball news came out yesterday. Of course, it feels like every time we do a Vol Society live show, I have like one or two topics I want to talk about, but it's kind of a tradition unlike any other. All this news comes out at the University of Tennessee. Mostly it's positive news, but the big news out of yesterday is Santiago Vescovi returning back for his fifth season. He's actually still has another year eligibility left. He can still redshirt and come back, but we'll talk about that. We also found out tonight as the Big Orange Caravan is in Nashville, I believe tonight or maybe last night, that a couple of Tennessee basketball players are testing out the NBA draft, but can still come back to play for Rick Barnes next year. But we'll dive into that a little bit later on. But that's just kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. All right, let's talk about the orange and white game. I was there Saturday. Great time. Beautiful weather. Although it was a little rainy driving up to Knoxville, but that was all right. It turned out to be it was as far as weather wise goes, it felt like a football Saturday. It was kind of cool and crisp in the morning with a little bit of a shower, but then it just kind of got warm and toasty at game time, which felt like kind of a September game. So it's all good there. But 68,000 fans was at the orange and white game. I thought it was going to be a record attendance, but actually it turned out to be, I think, six all time in the history of the orange and white game. Still a great turnout. And of course, the renovations in Neyland Stadium are continuing on as they close the south end zone. So everybody was shifted over and to the north end zone and to the sidelines. So made a good visual on TV or ESPN Plus. But I'll tell you what, the crowds that go to the concession stands and the bathrooms was pretty much a nightmare. It felt like if you ever gone to a concert at Thompson Boling Arena. You have the stage that blocks off half the arena, and everybody's kind of cultivated on one side. It felt very similar. I went to the Eagles concert 3 weeks ago, and it's kind of like deja vu all over again, except a lot more people for that. But so like I said, great turnout. As far as what I saw goes, I kind of said Joe Milton was a little off his game. He was off to me in the first half, but really kind of got going in the second half. He did get a touchdown to Caleb Webb, but just kind of break down the quarterbacks in general. I thought Joe, like I said, started off a little slow, but like I said, he really got his rhythm going in the second half, and I probably should have really emphasized that a little bit more than kind of my instant reaction. But it is what it is. But I thought, as far as Milton goes, keep in mind he did not have a lot of his go-to receivers. You did not have Brew McCoy. You did not have Ramel Keaton. You did not have Deontay Thornton. Squirrel White dressed out and returned punts, which returning punts is they punted the ball to him, he caught it, and that's where the possession started. But he was not in the lineup. So your four main wide receivers that you're going to see in the fall did not participate in spring practice. Of course, Brew's got an injury, and I think, kind of held some guys out, maybe just out of precaution. To anything happen. But we did see a lot of freshmen play. Caleb Webb did get a touchdown in the orange and white game from Joe Milton in the second half. And then if you look at kind of the rest goes. Cam Selton really stood out, kind of that, kind of I call it a human joystick. He kind of put him anywhere on the field, and he can make some moves. But they tested him out in a running back wide receiver combo position, and like I said, really stood out and impressed. So very excited to see how Cam Selden can fit in this offense this fall. And of course, like I said, we still got fall camp to go, and obviously we'll find out a little bit better. But it's very exciting to see him really pick up this playbook and really made an impact already. And like I said, he's supposed to still be in high school, and a lot of these guys like Nico and Cam Selden and Bishop, these are freshmen, and enrolled early at Tennessee. So like I said, they went through the winter workouts. They've already went through a spring practice, and it's just uh, amazing to see. Number one, not only the talent that they have brought, or the talent they are, but it's also impressive to see how they're willing to learn. They're willing to go ahead and make an impact, and definitely get on the field and not just kind of waiting in the wings. Now, granted, I'm sure that they've leaned on the veteran players and kind of picked their brain a little bit, but like I said, they really stood out, and especially obviously not having a lot of your star skill players, they had the time to shine. Running back Deshaun Bishop looked really good too. He got a touchdown in the Orange White game in the second half. But looking at the other quarterbacks, as I kind of veered off in a different path there, Nico looked really impressive. I thought his mechanics was really good, made some great throws, and of course, probably the highlight of the game was the throw where Nico rolled out to the right and found Ethan Davis, a tight end, and kind of dove at the sideline. That's kind of making the rounds from the orange and white game. And like I said, Nico looked very calm and cool in the pocket. He read his progressions very well. Like I said, one thing I did notice at the orange and white game, that Tennessee was running up tempo, but it wasn't that up tempo snap every 5 seconds and kept moving. It was very simplified. They slowed it down. I think normally like Tennessee will snap it like with 20 seconds or 18 seconds to go in the play clock. They were winding it down to about 15, so they had a lot of time to get these young guys adjusted. Like I said, still going through the learning curve, and I think Nico had a lot of time to deal with that. But he, like I said, I'm interested to see, once we get into quote unquote real football, I want to see how Nico adjusts from the high school level to the college level, and the same thing for like Cam Selden and Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod and Bishop. A lot of these freshmen making that transition up from high school ball to college ball. Like I said, it's a whole different animal, especially in the SEC, where it's a gauntlet every week. But excited to see. Gaston Moore. Probably the other big story coming out is just how Gaston Moore looked very impressive. 2 touchdown passes, and then had that late pick towards the end of the orange and white game. And now, obviously, I think a lot of people were kind of making jokes like, Gaston Moore should be QB1 because of what he did. Obviously, we all know that Gaston Moore's not going to start, but it's really encouraging to see your third string quarterback once again, really showing out and having an opportunity to not only impress the coaches but also impress the fans too. And I think one of the stigmas of a player that's third, fourth string on the depth chart is we assume, oh, they're just a trash player. I don't know why they recruited them and whatnot. I don't think that. Obviously, that's not true at all. I think Gaston Moore is a great quarterback. I think he's a great football player. Obviously, he doesn't have the talents of a Joe Milton and a Nico, but and I've never played football before, so I'm just kind of emphasizing here. But this is just a kind of general way learning in life too. Is like how much Gaston Moore listens to the coaches and how much he's willing to trust what he's doing out there, and let his talents take him to where he's at. And I think we should, even in life, we do that too. Whatever we're passionate about, whatever we have a drive for, we want to learn much about it and then apply it to whatever we're doing. And same thing for football. And Gaston Moore's doing the same thing. And even Gaston Moore knows that he's not going to be QB1 unless something crazy happens with him and Nico. But it's good to know the confidence that the coaching staff has in him, plus what he's listening to, what he's presented with. Now, also he has probably familiarity with some of the players that he's around, some of these second, third string guys that's out there, but it was really nice to see Gaston Moore do that, and it also makes you kind of think of Taven Jackson and Harrison Bailey, and I'm sure, and they're talented kids too themselves, but it makes you wonder a little bit how much when you bring a quarterback in or any position players, how much they're really paying attention to the coaching staff and how much they're buying into what they're saying and how much they mentally trying to adapt to their plays or adapt to what they're supposed to do. And like I said, I think that's one of the main reasons you see a lot of players, in my opinion, succeed is their obviously their talent, but also the way they listen to the coaches and buy into the system and adapt to what they've learned. And I think that's why they stick around for a while. But yeah, very impressed to see what Gaston Moore did there. Um, as far as defense goes, defense looked really good. Uh, we didn't see a lot of pressure in the quarterbacks, and obviously we weren't. But I think a lot of the fans were really looking forward to seeing how the secondary looked. Um, obviously, we saw Gaston Moore did throw an interception to Cameron Miller, former wide receiver, now defensive back. So it was really cool to see that he's made that transition fairly easily. Uh, but they were really covering very well. Now you didn't have Jalen McCullough. You didn't have. I don't think Turnage may have. I can't remember if Turnage played or not. Haddon dressed out a little bit, but we saw Gay Judy uh, Lee. I think I can't remember Gay Judy's last name. The transfer from BYU, he did play in there. Wesley Walker played, and they. I thought they did very well making good coverage, and there was no big plays that they gave up. Now, granted, I didn't think Tennessee was going to try a big play, except for the first play, trying to hook up with Jacob Warren. But I thought they looked really well covering receivers, and good to see, and very excited to see what's going to happen in the fall camp when we establish the depth chart. Linebackers, once again saw a lot of young guys. No Aaron Beasley, no Keenan Peely, another transfer from BYU. So, like I said, just a lot of just kind of filling holes and getting young guys some playing time and some extra reps in. But, overall, the orange and white game, you kind of have to take it for what it is. But I thought a lot of young guys look very well. Excited for the future at Tennessee, and like I said, going forward into fall camp. Obviously, Joe Milton's going to be QB1. Uh, but even our running backs, we didn't even see Small or Wright. I think I'm trying to remember who may have played. I don't think really any of them. Dylan Sampson played a little bit in that first series, but like I said, a lot of young guys and definitely kind of establishing some depth at Tennessee and a lot of great talent uh, along the way. Like I said, going into fall camp, we'll definitely establish that depth chart a little bit more and kind of learn from practice reports of who's really standing out. But good times at the Orange and White game. Always exciting to go. A lot of VFLs there. Kind of wish I got some autographs, but didn't get around to doing that. But great turnout. I know Deontay Thornton posted a video on one of his social media pages of when the team bus was coming up to Neyland Stadium, and he said this is a spring game, and you saw a wave of Tennessee fans gathered around the stadium, and then they had the Vol Village actually right near the stadium instead of at Circle Park where it's usually at, and yeah, so really cool, really great turnout. It was a very mini game day atmosphere, but yeah, overall exciting to see, and 2023 will be here before you know it. And I can't wait to do the VFL countdown to kickoff with the jersey numbers, which I think that's coming up next month also. All right, so that's kind of a look at the orange and white game in general. Let's talk about the Tennessee baseball team. Kind of go from a positive to a negative a little bit. Tennessee baseball lost last night 12-5 to Tennessee Tech. Over the weekend, got swept by Arkansas. So what's up with the baseball team? Well, it's a combination of a few things. Number one, the obvious one, and it's probably kind of an excuse one, is injuries. But it is true. Maui has missed his third straight game. Our starting shortstop, don't have really a timetable for him coming back. Christian Moore got hurt. I think at Sunday, I believe, at Arkansas. So our second baseman is out along with our shortstop. And then last night, Zach Joyce, one of our relief pitchers, went out. Listened to Tony Vitello's press conference coming home, and it sounds like it's not looking good. He didn't really give a full update as of when I was listening to the press conference last night, but he was going around hugging teammates and getting encouragement from his teammates. So it sounds like Zach Joyce is going to miss some time. So like I said, the injury bug really hitting bad for Tennessee, especially a team that had a lot of depth last year. And I still think they got some depth, but definitely you're missing kind of guys coming in out of that. Hello, my grandparents watching along. And I guess this brings it to my second point, making that transition over, is, the talent that we lost. I mean, we had 10 guys drafted last year in the MLB draft from like Trey Lipscomb, Luke Lippius, Drew Gilbert, Jordan Beck. And, even when I did the Tennessee baseball preview, I even said this, I was like, I'm not expecting Tennessee to put up massive numbers like they did last year, because that's just a once in a generation thing the Tennessee baseball team did last year. Not a lot of college baseball teams pulled those numbers off, and obviously didn't end it the way we wanted to. But I was kind of expecting, okay, this is a young team. This is going to be a lot of new faces in new places, but we still got a really good core of pitchers. And Chase Dolander, Chase Burns, Drew Beam, and then Xander Seacrest, midweek starter. And it seems like those guys hadn't really. I think we put too much stock into them, and I'm not saying that they're terrible pitchers by no means, but I'm just very surprised that they're just not going out kind of dominating. And I was expecting a lot of low-scoring games, but we're losing pretty big in some of these SEC weekend series. Now, yes, SEC baseball is a monster league. I mean, you got LSU at number one, Vanderbilt at number two. We're about to talk about in a moment. You just played Arkansas in the top five. Florida's in there in the mix, and Auburn's really good. Georgia's really good. I mean, it's just like SEC football. Probably, out of respect, probably better. It's just crazy. You look at a team like Ole Miss, who won the national championship, the College World Series last year. They're dead last in the SEC West. Mississippi State 2 years ago won the championship. Didn't even make the SEC tournament. I mean, so it's not uncommon to see teams who is at the top of the SEC in baseball to all of a sudden drop to dead last. And it's not like you won 50 games and then you're only winning 25. It's it's still very competitive 1 through 7. And same thing in the SEC West. You look at a team like Texas A&M, who 3 years ago, or actually, 2021, was in dead last in the SEC West. They hired TCU's baseball coach, and now Texas A&M 2 years later is right there in the mix. So it's just kind of a rotating carousel of just teams coming and going in the SEC. And as far as Tennessee baseball goes the rest of the way, you get Vanderbilt this weekend, and as of recording time, after this Vanderbilt weekend series, you don't have to play another SEC ranked team the rest of the year. Now, granted, you're still playing tough competition like Kentucky and South Carolina and Mississippi State, um, but like I said, Tennessee baseball, they're going to have to really turn around. And listening to Tony Vitello's press conference, it sounds like he knows it's go time because you still got a little over a month left in SEC baseball before you go into the SEC tournament in Omaha at the end of May, and then you hit obviously the NCAA tournament. And Tennessee's still going to make the NCAA tournament. It's just right now Tennessee's on that number 2 line, and if you had to compare it to the NCAA men's basketball tournament, Tennessee baseball would probably be like a 7, 8, 9 seed. It's just kind of where it's at. Um, but Tennessee baseball, and to me, I think they can still manage a great season. I still think they'll make it to Hoover for the SEC tournament. But they're going to have to get some wins. They're going to have, and like I said, a big opportunity coming up this weekend with Vanderbilt coming up. I have their schedule right here. It gets underway Friday, and a matter of fact, all these games are going to be on TV, and I'll post it on Ball Society Facebook page, so you can obviously watch this weekend. But Tennessee will play Vanderbilt Friday night, 6 o'clock Eastern time on the SEC Network, and then Saturday at noon on ESPN2, and Sunday at 1 o'clock on ESPN2. So big weekend for baseball in the Volunteer State as the Commodores of Vanderbilt and the Volunteers of Tennessee meets at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. And then after that, Tennessee takes on Bellarmine, and then Mississippi State, then Wofford, Georgia, Austin Peay, Kentucky, Belmont, South Carolina, and then Hoover starts on May 23rd to the 28th. So I still believe in Tony Vitello. I still believe this team can salvage a great season, but like I said, it's go time right here. I think even after this Vanderbilt series, hopefully don't get sweep. I don't expect I honestly, I would be very surprised if Tennessee does sweep Vanderbilt this weekend, but you know, it wouldn't shock me if Vanderbilt also sweeps us at home, and I hope that doesn't happen. Hopefully, we at least can win the series and get some sort of momentum going into late April, into early May, or throughout the rest of May in general. But that's a look at Tennessee baseball. Like I said, still believe in Tony V. Still believe in this team, even with the injuries. It's just going through some growing pains right now. All right, so some news and notes. Like I said, obviously being Vol Society, we have about 20 different stories that break the night we record, which is great for me, especially if I feel like, well, I've got nothing to talk about and all these stories break. So let's talk about Tennessee basketball right now. A lot of stuff coming down the pipe. Obviously, I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, Santiago Vescovi returning back for his 5th season at Tennessee. He still has a redshirt eligibility left if he wants to come back for a 6th season because of the pandemic season. So great to have some leadership back with Santi. Obviously he's a fan favorite. I'm a big Santi fan. He brings he brings 3-point shooting. He brings some good scoring, really. Probably one of our best scorers in the last couple of years. But he's not that go-to scorer that you're going to rely on, and maybe he'll do it next year. I don't know. It's like I said, he's been there for 5 years and went through a lot in his Tennessee career. But happy to see Santi back. And then reading here on social media here, so the Big Orange Caravan, which the Big Orange Caravan is the bus tour stops in like Nashville, Knoxville, Memphis, Chattanooga, kind of like shake hands with the Tennessee donors and Tennessee fans, which you have Josh Heupel, Rick Barnes, Kelly Harper, all part of that. So anyways, the point I'm trying to make is the Big Orange Caravan was in Nashville tonight. Rick Barnes said that Josiah Jordan-James and Julian Phillips are going through the NBA draft process, and they can come back if they decide not to, number one, hire an agent, and number two, officially declare for the draft. So this is the second year in a row Josiah Jordan-James has tested out the NBA draft. Obviously, I don't want to say didn't have a good showing, but didn't fit probably where he wants to be in the draft. So obviously he came back. This will be Josiah's, I believe, his sixth season if he does come back. Julian Phillips was a freshman last year, um, so it wouldn't shock me if both these guys come back. It'd be great to get Triple J back for another year. Have him and Santee. Like I said, Triple J last year battled through a lot of injuries, missed a lot of crucial games, and I think that's obviously the season we had, even though it was a Sweet 16 season. But I think could have been a lot better if he was healthier. But that stuff happens. Julian Phillips, I think we've seen the last few years now with Keon Johnson and Kennedy Chandler, the one and done guys. So it wouldn't shock me if Julian Phillips decides to go ahead and get drafted, and he may get drafted. Uh, I don't know if he'll be a starting opening day roster for an NBA team, but I think Julian probably needs another year in college, and then I believe he can probably be better. But that's just my opinion. This is obviously Julian's going to make the decision what's best for him, and same thing for Triple J and even Santee. But we'll see how both of these guys turned out in the end. Tennessee picked up a couple players in the transfer portal. This story just broke a couple hours ago. Harvard transfer Chris Ledium has committed to Tennessee. Many teams wanted him. Indiana was a strong runner for him. So Ledium is 6'6", 225, averaged 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 1 assist at Harvard. So like I said, Harvard, a fairly good basketball program in the Ivy League, so nice to pick him up. And then Tennessee also picked up, let me find him, another transfer in Jordan Gainey from South Carolina Upstate. He is the son of Coach Gainey, one of our assistant coaches at Tennessee, so I think we kind of know why he transferred. But I think he averaged like 16 points at USC Upstate. So, like I said, Tennessee getting a couple of guards in the transfer portal to add to this roster that now has Santee coming back and potential of having Triple J and Julian Phillips back. I don't know if we mentioned this on here or not, but Olivier Akamwa is in the transfer portal right now. But, as far as like any buzz or any news or any teams that wants Olivier Akamwa, it doesn't seem like nobody's willing to get him. Now, to me, it sounds like that he may be coming back also, and of course I'm judging from a social media post, so take it with a grain of salt. But I know when Santee announced that he was coming back to Tennessee, Olivier Kamwa commented on his post like "Let's go" or "Happy for you" or something like that. So it seems like Kamwa is still in good graces with Tennessee, but take that with a grain of salt. It's not gospel. It's just kind of read it between the lines, if you will. But and obviously you still got as far as some of the younger players coming back. BJ Edwards could be coming back, or I think he will be. You never know. So I think Tennessee basketball could be very interesting to see how they do next year. Like I said, my main thing is for them is trying to find a go-to scorer in crunch time, and I think that's where we struggle with. We do great crunch time defensively, but it's just hard for us to find points if we don't get out to that early lead, and ball fans know it. It can be in for a long night. Lady Vols basketball team also picked up a transfer from Pittsburgh. Avery Strickland is her name. So welcome, Avery, to the Lady Vols basketball team. Also, want to give a congratulations to Jordan Horston, who was drafted, I believe, by the Seattle Storm in the WNBA draft. So congratulations to her. We hadn't really mentioned that on the show or really on Ball Society in general. But, Lady Vols basketball team, I think it's got a lot of buzz coming in. Obviously, Avery Strickland transferred in. Rakia Jackson coming back. That's huge for us. And then like Sarah Puckett's coming back, and I think Tess Darby and many others on this Lady Vol Sweet 16 team. Uh, Very excited to see, and of course Kelly Harper got a new contract extension, so she is still Our Lady Vols head coach through the 2026-2027 season. So a lot of confidence and Danny White in keeping Kelly Harper. So good stuff to hear about that. And then Lady Vols end up picking up a commit this week. And let me find her name. Keontae Boyd from Centennial High School in Nevada, the number 29 ranked player in on ESPN's top 50 women players. So good stuff happening for Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols. Switching over to another Lady Vols team, Lady Vols softball team, playing very well. While the baseball team's kind of going through some woes, Lady Vols softball team doing very well. Ended up sweeping Kentucky over the weekend. Ashley Rogers was drafted in the Pro Softball League to a team. She was the third pick, so congratulations to Ashley Rogers. She's from my hometown, so I followed her career very well, and like I said, doing great stuff with the Lady Vols. And of course, she's our reigning Vol Society Lady Vol of the Year from the year 2022 that was voted on by the fans. So good stuff happening there. Matter of fact, let's see if I tell. She was okay. So she was drafted by Smashes Sports, the softball team there. So just had to pull that up there. So good stuff going on with Ashley Rogers and the Lady Vol softball team. All right, so we kind of covered everything here. Like I said, the orange and white game took place this past Saturday. We covered all that. And now spring ball is in the books, and now we shift over to fall camp coming up. Like I said, Tennessee football team will be taking a nice long summer vacation. Of course, finals is coming up next month, obviously for all the athletic teams. So good luck to all of them. Like I said, Tennessee baseball team getting ready to take on Vanderbilt this weekend. Big weekend series in Knoxville. I know the Lindsey Nelson Legends and the entire Vol Nation will be ready for the Commodores coming in this week. Like I said, I want Tennessee baseball to at least be competitive with them. I don't want to see them get blown out, but I think they can hang in there, especially at our big rivalry game. It's kind of one of those you have to throw the record books out, but I want to see them do very well. Obviously, I want them to sweep them, but I just at least want them to be competitive in all three games out this weekend, and especially like I said, at a time that we need to be competitive. And then good news throughout basketball with Santee returning back, and then possibly with Triple J and Julian Phillips coming back. So good stuff going on. Like I said, shout out to our Vol Society followers on our social media pages. You really blew up our page this week. We've had probably, we kind of had a slow April, but really it's picked up, especially since the orange and white game. Doing very well. So thank you very much for following along and sharing out our articles and spreading the name of Vol Society throughout our social media pages and gathering all Vol fans to watch our conduct. And I know I can speak from our founder, Brad. He really appreciates y'all. Like I said, I'm just kind of the guy you probably see a little bit more, but I want to give a shout out to our founder, Brad. Like I said, puts a lot of hard work behind the scenes, bringing good conduct. I cannot say conduct for some reason tonight. Bringing good conduct to us throughout our social media pages, really spreading it out, trying to, like I said, the podcast and live streams and other stuff, and really spreading the name of Vol Society. So give a shout out to him, and like I said, hopefully get back to hear from our other David with the podcast coming up this fall. Obviously, I think we're like 130 days, if I'm not mistaken, or like maybe 131 until it's football time in Tennessee. So once we get to 100 days, under 100 days, we will be bringing back our VFL countdown to kickoff, where every day on our social media pages in the morning, we will be matching whatever days we have left until kickoff with some VFLs that wore that particular jersey number. So if there's 75 days until it's football time in Tennessee, we'll highlight some VFLs that wore number 75 and some pictures and bring some nostalgia to that. So that's coming up around the end of May. I believe that's when we get going on that. But like I said, a lot of good stuff. Continue to spread the name of Vol Society, bring a lot of Vol fans on, and we'll talk to y'all later on. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, breaking down all the news and notes of what's going on. Obviously, we'll be still diving into baseball season. Hopefully, we'll get some more updates with the basketball team, maybe the football team. Transfer portal's back open again, so we'll see if any Tennessee players come or leave. It's kind of the way the transfer portal is. And, like I said, thank you for being a part of Vol Society. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Talk it all again. Until next time, this is David Morrison from Vol Society. Have a great night, and go Vols.